You want me to? I'm not warmed up, but, I'll warm up in front of you. Let's see,
Just
how do I
kidding.
do it?
Yeah,
Ah, here
yeah,
we go.
yeah.
Hey,
There you are.
there we go.
Nice to meet you, at least on screen. Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
Beautiful. hmm
So you're in Switzerland?
That's right. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
You mean which city or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Zurich.
Oh, Zurich,
Yeah.
okay, because I was just in, St. Moritz
Right.
at the Dracula Club.
How was it? Did you feel the
It was
teeth?
yeah, it was you and the bite and the music. Yeah, there were some good ones. I started a Facebook thread of, Dracula puns. I think the best one was, "Don't let the sun come up on me."
hmm
So
Right.
anyway.
What was that the only gig you played in Switzerland, or there was another one? I guess.
No, that was it.
No.
We had come straight from Spain.
Oh, okay.
We flew into Milan
hmm
and went up there from there, but it was great. It was really nice. We had a night off before. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you like Saint Moritz?
Oh, it's beautiful. I took a walk, the
hmm
day that we had to depart, I took a walk around 6:30 in the morning and just got the fresh air off of the lake. It was
hmm
really nice.
Yeah. It's good that you don't that there was no reed player involved, as far as I know. It was Arturo on trumpet, right?
There was a sax player.
Oh,
The
really?
the regular sax player couldn't make it, but we had,
Uh-huh.
a fantastic saxophone player, Ted Baker, on the
Uh-huh.
gig, and, yeah, it was a challenge, but,
A re-
he's like
uh-huh. I mean,
he's
I
no
I
matter what,
remember I remember
two
seeing
down.
Tim. I remember seeing Tim Garland with Chicory, and the reeds are much tighter up there, so
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to blow. Yeah.
Oh,
hmm
yeah. Sometimes, I remember we played up in Cusco, Peru, one time,
hmm Yeah.
and Paquito was complaining about playing the clarinet, and there
Right.
was some other gigs where we were up there,
hmm
and, he was not happy with that.
Yeah, you have to play soft reeds when you're in the mountains. That's the only
Right.
thing. Yeah, that works. Yeah.
And when you're up that high, you have to just chill out for a couple of hours before you can do anything,
Mm. Yeah.
like a base camp.
Right. Do you travel with your own drum kit when you tour, or what stuff do you take with you?
Um, Not usually, but when I was with Oregon, we used to our tour manager was in Germany, and he had
hmm
a kit, and I used to use that kit all the time. So we would go to different places in the van, and if there was some place we had to fly to, then I just use the local kit. But now I don't even bring cymbals for Arturo's gig,
Yeah.
which is a little dangerous because you don't know what you're gonna get. But,
hmm
so far, I've had really good luck.
hmm
Um, and like, usually I would bring, like, for Oregon or Paquito, I'd bring really dark, light cymbals. Now for Arturo's gig, it's become really heavy
mm
because we're really digging in. You have
hmm
to have that definition. So it's a whole different thing. So
hmm
if somebody comes up with like rock cymbals, they sound perfect.
hmm I see.
The real light jazz ones don't sound that great for this gig for some reason.
hmm Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Was drums your first instrument? Did you start playing the drums right on?
Um, Actually, guitar was my first instrument, but I was
hmm
taking lessons. I was about 9 years old, and I wasn't very disciplined, so I didn't practice, and I sort of gravitated toward the drums.
hmm
I had experience. We I grew up in Chicago, and my dad had a place in Michigan, South Haven, Michigan. We would go there in the summer and just hang out on the beach and stuff. And I remember somehow getting a hold of a bunch of hubcaps from cars and something to play them with. So I laid them out in the sand and I started banging on them. That was the first time I played percussion, really. And it was a beautiful day on the beach. I'm playing this stuff, and something in my mind clicked. So now, I have to keep going.
That's what you did. Yeah, beautiful. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, what age was that, more
I
or
was
less?
about I was about 9, 10 years old.
Mhm.
And then later I got a drum set. It was a kind of a toy drum set, but I
Mhm.
also got a kind of professional snare drum that I got through the grade school I was going to because they had a little band.
Mhm.
So I combined that and I started playing along with records. And I got to hear a lot of great drummers at an early age, and that really helped kind of shape the way it was supposed to be. I got to hear Art Blakey and Max Roach
Mhm.
and Barrett Deems, Buddy Rich, all these amazing drummers. And I heard a few great rock drummers too, John Bonham. And yeah, so it gave me that feeling of swing. It gave me that feeling of rock. It just makes an imprint on your soul to
Mhm.
see one of the legendary drummers. And I actually went up to Art Blakey and I asked him a question. I was 16 years old at the time. I said, "Mr. Blakey, do you have any advice for a young drummer?" And he said, "You got to play with someone every night." And it didn't really click until later I started touring with people. And when you play with people every night, things develop
Mhm.
and you get more of a connection with your instrument. So now I'm a firm believer in playing with someone every night if you can. It was a little hard in 2020.
That's
I
right.
had to
But
play with myself every night.
with yourself, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I guess the Arturo Sandoval tour and gigs, this was the last kind of thing that you played every night with the same group of people, right?
Oh, yeah. The
Yeah.
European tour was really cool because we had this spirit of let's let's get to the gig, let's do this, and let's make it the best we can be. Everybody was on the same page,
Mhm.
and it's really nice. It's really refreshing when everybody's into it like that. Because some bands, people can get lazy, people can get dark, whatever issues they have could come up. But this is all like three people in the band are new, including myself,
Mhm.
and we were just having so much fun. Plus, there was a sub, so we were all just trying to make it the best it can be. And we had a lot of nights where we played uh, two sets. Like at Ronnie Scott's in London, we played two sets for 3 nights,
Mhm.
2 sets a night for 3 nights. And so we really could develop something because we were set up in the same place. We just walk in and play.
Mhm.
And also, getting there, we flew in from Athens to London, which took about an hour and 12 minutes. And then it took over 3 hours to get from the airport to the venue. It's like Friday afternoon traffic in London,
Mhm.
just unbelievable.
On the left
But
side.
we did a half-hour sound check,
Mhm.
like unbelievable for any band. We walked in, we just did it, and then we hit. We ate a little food and then we hit. So it was that spirit. It was that like, okay, we're a team, we're going to do this, and nobody was complaining. That was like everybody was just into it. So that's a really good way to play music when everybody is on the same page like that.
And hungry as well, musically hungry, I guess. Not only financially
Yeah,
hungry. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So we have a different kind of gig this Thursday. We're playing with the Grand Rapids Symphony
Hmm.
in Michigan, and so there's gonna be some different charts that we're gonna play. So that'll be nice. It'll be a different vibe. We won't be playing our regular repertoire, so that'll be another type of challenge to play with the orchestra and see if we can blend
Hmm.
with the orchestra. And then we have a South American tour, which is going to be 4 dates: um, Santiago, Lima, Sao Paulo, and Buenos Aires. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And what's the repertoire you guys play? I'm not familiar with the music so far.
Um, well, we usually start with a tune of Arturo's called
Hmm.
Capricciosos de la Habana,
Hmm.
which is a samba. dedicated to the people in Brazil of the samba schools, which he sat in with. And the interesting thing about that tune is that I was the first drummer ever to play that tune in 1990 because we recorded that on this album called Reunion with Paquito de Rivera and Arturo and Danilo Perez and some other great musicians. Giovanni Hidalgo was on it. So that's the first time. So I already knew that tune from way back in 1990. So that's usually the opener. And then, we go in different directions, different nights. Like at Ronnie Scott's, we were playing Bye Bye Blackbird a lot. So he gets the audience to sing Bye Bye Blackbird.
And he plays on the flugelhorn or stays on the trumpet?
He used a Harmon mute for that, kind of like Miles' sound. And but then after a while, I think he might have forgotten his mute somewhere, so that was out of the show. And but usually we play Cherokee, but we don't play the normal head for Cherokee. We play a Clifford Brown version, which is like a bebop bebop head on the same changes.
Okay.
And the tempo is somewhere between like 380 and 400 beats a minute. For 10 minutes at a time, because people are taking 3 choruses of Cherokee. It's like it's a workout, but it's fun. And the first time I played that with him was in La Jolla, California. It was my first gig with this band. And on the it was at the sound check. We rehearsed it, and he came up and said, "Hey, Mark, when you play this, just drop the stick." And he started doing this thing on the cymbal. He started playing. Let me see if I can do this. He started playing. So
you guys switched instruments?
No. He just said, that's the way he likes it to sound. So I started incorporating that, because before I was playing kind of a split up way that I saw Max Roach do a few times. Like he would take something called the paradiddle diddle, which was I hope this sounds okay.
Yeah, it's great.
And then he would split it up on the ride cymbal, and because the hi-hats on 2 and 4 to give the impression of playing really fast. So he might be going 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So that's one way of being able to do that for like 10 minutes. But I'm, sometimes he looks back and he wants that thing. But I haven't really worked out that much coordination for it, so that's something I have to practice. But something I was messing around with at sound check a couple of days ago in Stanford, they provided a double bass pedal, like a double pedal for the bass drum. So you can play, with two pedals. But
sure,
the left one is near the hi-hat, so I can play the hi-hat at the same time. So like Dennis Chambers would play left, right, right. And that's where he get out his towel, wipe his brow, take a drink, and people would be going crazy, and he'd just be, that whole thing. But I spontaneously, I started going. So you could say that that's heavy metal bebop.
Yeah, it's a lot of things going on there. It's just
yeah. So yeah, I always remember the Brecker Brothers heavy metal bebop, but now here's an actual interpretation of heavy metal bebop.
Yeah, right. Speaking of which, I guess I'm pretty sure I saw you playing with Mike Michael Brecker in Brazil. There is a clip somewhere floating around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was put together by Cesar Camargo Mariano. Cesar
Beautiful.
Camargo Mariano. He's a fantastic pianist, arranger, and composer who was at least Regina's musical director and husband.
Mhm.
And he went out on his own. He's done many records, like he's done pop stuff and jazz stuff and small group stuff. And so he put together a show with Brecker, Ivan Lins, great singer, songwriter from Brazil,
Mhm.
Diane Reeves, fantastic singer. And that was like the front line. And then he had Romero Lubambo, guitar player,
Mhm.
and Leo Traversa on bass. And there was another keyboard player. I can't remember his name, but that was the band. So we did like 4 gigs in Brazil. And I'm glad somebody caught it on YouTube because that was really nice. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't get you a whole concert, but they caught a couple of tunes. It was really
Mhm.
cool. So, you know, being able to play Song for Bilbao with Michael Brecker was pretty cool.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And he was a great guy. I mean, it's like totally cool guy. Just loved to hang. And we went out shopping for mate in Brazil. Like nicest guy you ever meet, you know? So that's really nice when you meet someone with that huge amount of talent that is just down to earth.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. So there was kind of a recommendation that you were invited to, or you had the Brazil connections already going?
Oh, well, how I met Cesar was that I was playing with Lyle Mays,
Mhm.
fantastic composer himself and pianist. Uh, well, so just to backtrack, in Chicago, I was playing with a pianist named Fred Simon. I can't remember who recommended me to him, but he's great. Kind of like he says he's like a singer-songwriter who doesn't sing. So he writes these great tunes, and
Mhm.
it's been a blast working with him. And then he used to be part of a group called Simon and Bard, which featured Paul Werdico and Steve Rodby. And I got called to sub for Paul Werdico on Simon and Bard. That's how I met Fred.
Mhm.
And then I met Steve because Steve produced some of Fred's albums, and I was part of the session. And then Paul McCandless from Oregon put a band together with Fred, Steve, and Lyle and me.
Mhm.
And that was a really great experience. That was around 1991. We recorded and we did some festivals and stuff. And then Lyle formed a quartet around 1992. And by that point, I was working with Paquito. So I took a little break from Paquito to work with Lyle, still living in Chicago. And our first gigs together were in Brazil. We did Sao Paulo and Rio. And I believe it was in Sao Paulo. I had been listening to Cesar's music a lot, you know, and I really liked it. And in the parking lot after our concert with Lyle, I saw somebody, we were talking to some musicians, and somebody looked really familiar. I said, "Do you play drums? You look really familiar." He said, Cesar Camargo Mariano. I said, "Oh man." So I started singing all his tunes to him,
Uh-huh.
you know, like he was like, "What? How do you know this music?" You know. And also Luis Almaya, a great bass player who also worked with Elise Regina, was right there. So what we did, we went to a club after hours, after the club had closed, and we had a little jam session, what they call a
Mhm.
canja. Uh, but it was just Lyle's group and Cesar and Luisal. We were playing all kinds of tunes, and I played all his music, you know, because I knew it.
Mhm.
And he like flipped out, you know. So this is around 1992. And then a few years later, I ran into him at a party um, at Paquito's house in New Jersey. And we started playing together and stuff. And then afterward, he said, "Let's talk about some work." So he had a band, he had a quartet. He wanted me to play with him. And he was going to book a lot of work around 1996. But then this opportunity to do a project dedicated to Elise came up. So he was going to use the band on that. So he canceled a lot of the live work. But unfortunately, the record project was canceled as well by the record company because they had new people coming in, and they didn't want to put money on that. So we only did a couple of gigs, but it was a lot of fun. And the quartet was wonderful. It was Romero Lubambo and Leo Traversa and me. And then they actually downsized to a duo, just Cesar and Romero, and they sounded amazing. So there's lots of YouTube of just those two guys. But, we kept in touch with Cesar. We had a couple of records with Romero Lubambo that Cesar played on. And I remember one record sometime in the 90s after that. It was Romero's record, and he had great bass player Sergio Brandao and Cesar and Ivan Lins on the session. And I was like, oh man, these guys are my heroes. I was just so excited. I was overplaying. And at the end of one take, Ivan Lins says something in Portuguese, and they get on the talkback and said, Mark, we're all playing percussion. I had to empty it out because I was playing way too much. I was too excited. So okay. I just played it the least I could, which felt a little weird. But then when I heard the playback, it's like, oh, now it all fits together. So that was I always say some of my greatest drum lessons have been from non-drummers. Although in this case, they were all playing percussion. So anyway, yes, that's how I hooked up with Cesar.
Yeah, beautiful. Were you always into a lot of different styles? I mean, you started out, you were attracted to the swing guys in the beginning, but then you kind of opened up to the whole world of rhythms, right?
I think initially I really was attracted to rock and funk, and I really wanted to play that. But then I found that as a jazz player, you could work in different places. You didn't have to rehearse with the same band all the time and all that. You could just go do this gig and that gig and work with all these people. So that's what I decided to do. And I kind of fell into situations where they played a lot of different styles. And that's sort of been my whole career. Like Oregon always kind of played a lot of different styles when I was working with them. I worked with them about 23 years. Same thing with Paquito, same thing with Arturo, same thing with pretty much any band I worked with. They play a lot of styles. And sometimes they don't really play styles at all. They'll play tunes that could be this way or that way, but we just sort of shape it in a certain way. Like, for example, Ralph Towner, he could sit down and play straight up samba like nobody else, but he chooses to make it more abstract and make it more like his thing. So that's how we treated the rhythms in Oregon. Whereas if we're playing a samba in Paquito's group or Arturo's group, it's going to be samba, but it's going to be jazz at the same time. So, but I've always enjoyed playing different rhythms, and I've tried to study them best I can because I love the way they sound to me, and I love to study them and absorb them and try to generate that feeling. I remember one time in Brazil, I went there by myself in '94 and just was hanging out, and a singer, a friend of mine, took me to a club, and they didn't know me or anything, and she had convinced them to let me sit in. So they said, okay, we'll just play a Stevie Wonder tune. I just called to say I love you. You can't screw that up. So I played in a very Brazilian way, and they started to smile. They started to warm up, and by the end, they said, what do you want to play? I said, how about Bala Kumbala by João Bosco, which is a great tune and up samba. And so we started burning on it, and people got up and danced. So that's my diplomatic passport. So that I don't think there's any higher compliment someone could pay me than to get up and dance, or anybody. Right. You know what I mean? But I just love the music, and I love straight ahead. I love playing straight up funk. We get to do all that on Arturo's gig, which is fun. Like there's, I think the thing with Arturo's gig is that he enjoys freedom, like on stage and off stage. Like he left Cuba because it was very repressive there for him. And same thing with Paquito, obviously. but he likes to just free form, go free form. Like he plays tunes, obviously, but in some parts of the show, he just like you see him walking over to a keyboard, you see him walking over to the trumpet, you see him going for the timbales, you see him going, and so I realized that part of my job on this gig with him is to make it sound like it was all arranged in the first place. So if he goes to the keyboard, I set it up, like I prepare, and then he comes in, and so it feels like that's part of the arrangement. But he's just going for it. He's just free to do what he wants.
Mhm.
So basically, my job is to kind of put a frame around that.
Mhm. It's more about the process and about having fun and do what feels right. It seems to me.
Yeah, just like
Beautiful.
any meeting, any conversation,
Mhm, mhm. I was listening to Oregon the other day. Gorgeous harmonies, gorgeous melodies. I have to
Amazing
dig.
compositions.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to dig deeper. I'm just on the surface, but I think Paul, or maybe even the whole band, were once in Zurich at the university where I studied to give a master class or something.
Oh, okay.
I'm not quite sure. Uh, when did the band start to play, and when, and is it still going on, or is it kind of
It's not going on anymore. Our last tour was 2017, but
mhm,
the band has been together since 1970,
90s?
and they were part of Paul Winter's band.
Mhm,
So Paul Winter is a soprano saxophonist and kind of like a ringmaster. He has all this stuff going on in the show.
mhm, mhm,
But those guys got together. It was Ralph Towner, Paul McCandless, Glenn Moore, and Colin Walcott.
mhm,
That was the original band, and they were amazing. And a lot of the fans, that's the band for them, and that's it. And then tragically, Colin died in an accident in 1984 on the East German Autobahn, and they got a fantastic percussionist named Trilak Gurtu.
mhm.
He joined the band,
Okay.
and then he left after a while, probably around the early 90s, to go with John McLaughlin. Then they worked as a trio for a while without percussion. And around 1996, I got the call to play
Mhm,
on their album called Northwest Passage. And again, Steve Rodby was producing. Of course, Pat Metheny's bass player. He's an amazing musician, amazing producer.
mhm,
He, he's not a flashy player, but he grooves like not many other people. And he's got a fantastic intelligence, musical intelligence, and sense of how things, the essence of how things should sound. And that's why I've always enjoyed working with him. And he's really challenged me to up my game. That's what the Matheny group was all about for all of them. So I really appreciate that. Anyway, so he got me on it, and I just kind of cobbled together a setup. I wasn't even playing a bass drum, and I went in the studio in Chicago and recorded with them. And then Ralph Towner offered me the gig,
mhm.
and he said, "Yeah, you can have the gig if you want. It doesn't pay anything, but
The usual.
but I mean, they didn't make a lot of money, but they would split everything evenly, which was really generous of them. They didn't have to do that, but we did pretty well on tour. Um, but yeah, we had a lot of tours throughout the years, a lot of records. Started recording on Intuition, and then went to Cam Jazz, which is an Italian label.
Mhm,
And there's still some unreleased stuff that they can put out. The one I hope they put out, because we did a couple of times, we did a couple of productions with the HR uh, big band from
mhm.
Frankfurt, Germany, which is one of the
Right.
German radio big bands. And the arrangements, and it was conducted, arrangements were written, and it was conducted by Jim McNeely, who's been with the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra for many years and wrote for Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, and it's just a total master. But yeah, working with Oregon really sparked my interest in composition, and I
Mhm,
got to write a little bit for them. And I wound up studying during the pandemic. I studied in a master's program for jazz composition at UMass Amherst, which was an amazing program, amazing teachers, and I learned a lot.
Hmm.
So I thought this summer after I graduated, I'd be chilling out and writing music. Now I'm on the road. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Oregon has been an amazing experience.
Mm.
I mean, it's just so different than any other band I've ever worked with.
Yeah. Very unique sound there.
Mhm.
Hmm. And when did you start teaching at Berkeley? Is that
I started teaching at Berkeley in January 2001.
20
So I
years?
was commuting from New York. Was living in New York since 1995,
Hmm.
and I was commuting up, and I was touring a lot. So it was a little bit of a conflict for a while. But then I thought, okay, you know what? If I move closer to Boston, it'll probably be a lot easier. So I did that. About
Hmm.
17 years, I moved up here where I'm speaking from in Natick, Massachusetts,
Hmm.
which is about 30 minutes due west. And it's been going well. I don't have a full-time gig at Berkeley, but teaching is a lot of fun. And I really like to see people developing their playing and getting gigs, and in some cases, replacing me. So, I'm like, I know my teaching is good if they start stealing my gigs.
Yeah, that's the obvious sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Maybe
want
you
them
have
to, because I
maybe you
want
have
them
to
to
lower
be
the
great.
level a little bit.
Yeah, because, when I was younger, I stole somebody else's gig at
Hmm.
some point, but they gave me a chance. So everybody deserves a chance. I mean, who's going to play when I'm gone?
Right.
Somebody's got to do it.
And I read that you were or and still are like a and when you came up you were interested to become a session drummer, like you mentioned. You like to play a lot of different styles with a lot of different people. Was that like a conscious path that you pursued, or it just kind of happened because you were so
I
versatile?
think it just kind of happens. I don't think anybody sets out to be well, maybe some people do set out to be session musicians, like particularly those who moved to Nashville, for example. But as part of my early experiences, I was already doing sessions, and I just thought it was part of what you do if you're a professional player.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a project studio in Chicago called Soto Sound, SOTO, and it was I would get hired, and also there's a bass player who now lives in LA called Bill Dickens, who's amazing facility. He used to practice out of drum books, so we would do a lot of R&B sessions and different
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And it was that was great because that's how I made the mistakes then, you know, and then when you hear yourself back, that's an education in itself. Because I never went to college back then.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to college till 2016, and that was online. But I call it the school of the playback because
Mm-hmm.
you can hear everything on the playback, and sometimes it doesn't sound good. So you have to figure out, okay, what's going on? Why doesn't it sound good? And so I had to figure that out. What's wrong with my time? What's wrong with my sound? So it's one of those things you practice and you get comfortable playing with a click track, and then you start to get better at it. But it just depends on what musical scene you fall into. Like I was reading about Steve Ferrone. I don't think he ever set out to be a session musician, but he fell in with some people that hired him for sessions, and he became really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what you do, you get used to hearing that, and you figure out how to make it better. But in my case, I always wanted to get my own studio together, partly to do sessions for people, but also to find my artistic voice, which is also why I studied. So if I pick up this computer and just show you around here, this is my
So you can record
studio.
drum parts here,
Yeah, I've got my whole setup over
or
there.
even a band.
Got
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a few other drum sets.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell my wife. Just kidding. But yeah, so I could do pretty much any project that somebody sends me
Hmm.
because the stuff sounds really good. I just got a new setup. So right before we started this chat, I had an engineer over here and we were getting the routing together, and we got all these
Hmm.
fancy sends and effects and all that. It's the universal audio stuff. So I'm pretty much set
Hmm.
on, making really good sounds.
But there is even space for a whole band to record there. Am I
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Easily. I've got a piano.
Hmm. Just saw
Uh,
that.
I could record a trio, or I could record some guitar players, whatever.
Mm.
And there's enough inputs and all that where it would be easy. I haven't done that very much here because I want to just kind of keep it low key. I don't want too many
Mhm.
people coming in and out. But
Mhm.
it's nice to have sessions here. Like sometimes I have playing sessions here,
Mm.
and it's great. I mean, it's just it goes back to Art Blakey playing with someone every night. Feels
Yeah,
good.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night is another night, right? With the orchestra? Is it
Actually, it's going to be Thursday, but
2 days? Mhm.
um, I'll probably go out to hear a band tomorrow. There's a fantastic composer arranger at Berkeley named Ein Inserto, and she writes for large ensembles. So I'm going to probably go hear her band because she studied with Bob Brookmeyer,
Mhm.
and I've heard her stuff, and she's amazing. And I've worked with her just a little, so I'm going to go show up and get inspired to get back more into writing. Because when this Arturo gig came up, it was like a wave. Their drummer quit. The drummer of like over a decade just suddenly quit.
Mm.
So uh, sax player Mike Tucker got me in the band. So all of a sudden I had to go back to playing like more.
Mhm.
I was playing, but all of my free time was writing for the last 2 years.
So
So I
where
had
is
to
all
go.
that music?
What's that?
So where is all that music that you've
Oh,
wrote?
where's all the music? Um, so I'm planning on. Oh, that's a good question. I'm planning on recording it because I got a grant from Berkeley for studio time. So I'm going to be doing it um, probably in May of next year.
Mhm.
And
Nice.
the music itself is basically what amounts to my thesis. When you're in the jazz program at UMass, you don't write words. You write a suite of music for the
Mhm.
thesis. So I chose the large ensemble format because I love that sound. And actually, one of my teachers told me that I started to find my artistic voice. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I just have to find time. I have to balance the time out between recovering from travel and working, teaching, and all that
Mm.
to refine the music and somehow get the budget and get the people and get some rehearsals together, and
Mm.
by then. So we'll see what happens. And I got
Fine.
a label interested. So
Okay. Find some students who will copy the parts, and print it, and score it, and
right. I
arrange it.
mean, that's copying is not copying is not such a big deal because I'm using Sibelius. I can just print it up. I just have
Mm.
to go through each part and check the accidentals so that it's readable,
Mhm.
so it's not a pain to play. And then just get some people together and start rehearsing. But that
What's
it all takes time and money.
the instrumentation is set already? What do you have in mind there?
It's going to be kind of standard big band format,
Hmm.
but it's good. It's also going to have percussionists,
Hmm.
and there's probably going to be a vibes player. The woodwind players have to double,
Hmm.
probably clarinet and flute, and I'll probably have some special guests. I'm going to see who I can get. I know I talked to some different people over the years, and they said, "Yeah, yeah, let me know." So Andy Narell will probably be a special guest,
Hmm.
and I got to work with Jerry Goodman a couple of years ago. He's a great violin player, so I would love to hear his sound over it because
Hmm.
he was part of Mahavishnu Orchestra, and that sound he plays so great.
Hmm.
And then who knows? Maybe I'll be lucky enough to get Arturo.
Mhm.
And it'd be great to get maybe a guitar player, maybe Ralph Towner. Who knows? We'll see if he's into it.
Looking forward to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
music. Yeah,
But
when
yeah,
it comes
so it's
alive.
like, I wrote in styles and then non-styles. Like one of the main pieces of the suite is a 15/8 kind of Afrobeat sound,
Mhm.
which was inspired by a percussionist who did a clinic at Berkeley named Jerry Leak.
Mhm.
And I studied a little bit of frame drum with him, and he's a character. He's great, great percussionist. And he did some clinic on a 15/8 bell pattern, like an West African bell pattern in 15/8, and phrase rotation. So I started to use some of those concepts, and I started composing something, and then expanded it to a whole big band. So yeah, different inspiration. I tried to find something that would sort of reflect life.
Mhm.
I called it Spirit and Rhythm. That's the whole suite.
Sounds
So yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
yeah. I'm glad
And
you asked. Be back
how
into it.
how long does it take for the cycle to complete?
Oh well,
15/8.
yeah. I mean, 15 is just like if you think of it in five, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. But if you subdivide it in triplets, one triplet, two triplet, three triplet, four triplet, five triplet, that would be
Mhm.
15.
Mhm.
And so the bell pattern for that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da 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 da. So that would be that would be played on a cowbell, and you could have different
Mhm.
phrases with that.
Mhm.
Like
It-
sometimes you have a cross rhythm. So that would be like if I played here's the pulse, and I played the 15/8 bell pattern. Now if I played an even pulse throughout that, it would be so it would be a downbeat, it would be the last triplet, and then it would be the middle triplet, and that would
Mhm.
be 3 even beats, which would be a cross rhythm. So and then you could orchestrate it melodically. So I did that with a bass line.
Mhm.
Sometimes a bell pattern became a chord, ding, 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 or a motif, like a high thing,
Mhm.
sort of like a 15-ish type of thing. And then I created a melody that would kind of snake in and out of that, which would sort of complete the whole
Yeah,
puzzle.
that's what I wanted to know. Like, you hear that stuff in your head because it's not, well, for me, it's not easy to hear. Like, how can a band fit in when you have a crazy rhythm like that going on? So.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's
Mhm.
going to take a lot of rehearsal. I mean, we actually performed this live with the Jazz Ensemble One at UMass,
Mhm.
and it was tough. Like the piano player, like as first was first, the piano player was getting lost, but then they kind of finally got it.
Mhm.
Like originally, I had the piano by itself, playing the bell pattern like as a
Mhm.
legato type of ding 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 ding, like a drone.
Mhm.
But I had to play something so they wouldn't lose it because it was all new to them.
Mhm.
I can't blame them, because they're just trying to sight read this stuff.
Mhm.
So that's the thing with large ensembles, you only have maybe one or two rehearsals
Mhm.
maximum. So it's tricky if you don't have a regular band. So I would love to have a regular big band situation to bring this stuff into.
Mhm.
So I'm talking about it with a good friend of mine, Greg Hopkins. He's a trumpet player, amazing arranger, and he's been at Berkeley since the 70s. And I saw him with Buddy Rich when I was 13. It's the first time I saw Buddy. He had arranged that famous chart that Buddy did called Nutville by Horace Silver.
Mhm.
And it was a great chart. And so I mean, I was just that band was so electric, just so much energy in that. And so Greg and I work together. Sometimes we've done some recording sessions with big band stuff, some of my compositions, some of his compositions. So yeah, I'm gonna see if we can get a regular situation together.
Yeah.
It's a little tricky getting a regular situation because it's usually not a big paying thing.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about 18, 20 musicians, that's even less.
Yeah.
But if people like the music and people like composition, they tend to just go for it.
Yeah, I
If
mean, they
somebody
should
has a big band, I just do it.
prepare it at home and be ready when they can meet with you and play the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, it takes a lot of dedication to play music like that,
Mhm.
and it's not always the case to have that many people available. So it might, who knows, it might
Mhm.
be when I actually get out and play with that music, it might be less than 18 people, but I'll try
Mhm.
to get everybody.
We'll see. Yeah. Mhm. And you're gonna play different. Kind of my last question. You're gonna play differently on Thursday with the orchestra. Is that the first time you have an orchestra behind you, or it's an old hat for you?
This will be my first gig with Arturo with orchestra, so I
Mhm.
don't really know. I mean, I've been sent the charts and the tunes,
Mhm.
so I'll just take it case by case. If I mean, I'll just check out the charts and we'll do the rehearsal the same day. So whatever it needs, I'll
So
I'll I'll give.
it's different music than the regular repertoire.
Oh yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
We won't be
Mhm.
playing. Well, if we play Cherokee at 400 beats a minute, it'll just be us.
Yeah, without
I
the
know the
mallets on
first half.
timpani.
Oh,
Mhm.
actually, I have a somebody sent me a list. Let me see. I could tell you exactly what we're going to play. Okay. So what's happening is the first half is something from Leonard Bernstein with the orchestra only, and then something called danzón, which is a Cuban dance style with the orchestra
Mhm.
only. And then there's a Sandoval concerto with Arturo Sandoval and the orchestra. So just trumpet and orchestra. Then intermission. Then I see that we're going to play Someone to Watch Over Me with Arturo, the band, and the orchestra. And there's something called Dear Diz, which I think is a ballad. And that's Arturo, band, and the orchestra. And then Groovin' High, that's a Dizzy tune. And then Smile,
Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin. And then something called Virgin de la Macarena with just Arturo and the orchestra. And then whatever other surprises.
Mhm.
Oh, there's something Every Day I Think of You, which is a ballad. Beautiful dedication to Dizzy. So it's really all about paying homage to Dizzy. It seems like this theme is paying homage to Dizzy. And
Mhm.
I actually had the good fortune to play with Dizzy once. I wasn't hired to play with his band, but he sat in with Paquito's band for several tunes in 1991 in Monterey. And my view of it was really interesting because I was at the drums. I was looking at the back of his head. And so I could see his cheeks going out like this behind him. And I could see the trumpet bell, his trumpet bell went up like that. I could see the bell like past his head like that.
Mhm.
And the best, I mean, he played amazing, just amazing music coming out of that horn. It felt so great. And then he'd sweat a little bit and he would wipe his brow and he put the towel on the drum hardware that the tom toms were on. So it's like, I felt like I was being baptized.
I'm sure you were. Yeah.
It was a great experience. He was such a nice guy too. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
just he was smiling,
Nice.
Super nice person.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
With Paquito still the nucleus group kind of thing,
We haven't worked with him since last fall,
which
and
is
I'm
not
not
so long.
sure.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm not, we haven't had any gigs, and he's been touring with Chucho Valdez,
Right, as a duo, yeah.
and he's got a band with one of Paquito's group members, Diego Orcola, great trumpet player, is playing with him. And then the rhythm section, I can't remember who the bass player is, but the drummer is Daphnis Prieto, is one of my favorites. He's amazing, amazing Cuban drummer. So, and also Roberto Vizcaíno Jr. is on percussion. He's amazing too. So that's been a nice tour for them. They've been all over the place. But I haven't heard from Paquito since I joined Arturo's band, but I think it's all good. I think when you join Arturo's band, you have to make all the gigs. So far, no conflicts.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a pleasure talking to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's
Thanks
always
for your
fun to hang
time.
out and talk.
Yeah, it's great to have a little bit of insight about.
Yeah, and you got some nice interviews. Alex Acuna, I want to check that.
Yeah, that was yesterday. I had the chance. Yeah,
yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
all
right. Anytime you want to talk again, I'll be around.
Yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, let me know when you're hitting the road with Arturo here. That would be great.
You bet.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be back soon.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Okay, have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.